Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I want you to think for a second about just how much of your life, your finances, your personal communications, your actual work, has completely migrated over into cyberspace. It's kind of crazy, right? As we move our entire existence online, this vast, incredible environment naturally becomes an increasingly vulnerable frontier. Cyber attacks are this relentless, everyday issue plaguing the online world. So today, we are going to unpack exactly how we defend ourselves out there.
Here is our quick blueprint for today. We'll start with 1. Welcome to cyberspace, move into 2. The cybersecurity mandate, explore 3. Layers of digital defense, address 4. The human element, cover 5. Surviving a breach, and finally wrap it all up with 6. Enforcing cyber laws.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1. Welcome to cyberspace.
You see, the internet really isn't just a tool anymore. It's an entirely new, almost untamed territory where we spend a huge portion of our lives. When we say cyberspace, we're talking about a virtual computer world and an electronic medium that uses the TCP/IP protocol. Now, that protocol is essentially the fundamental language computers use to actually talk to each other to facilitate an interactive environment for all of us participants. So what does that actually mean for you and me? Well, because our financial, technical, and communication processes literally live inside this interactive worldwide network, we are inherently vulnerable. We're constantly exchanging data in this virtual environment, which naturally opens the door to attacks trying to exploit that exact interaction.
Moving right along to Section 2, the cybersecurity mandate.
Since we've essentially migrated our lives into this new territory, we absolutely have to build a fortress if we want to survive and thrive. And that brings us to our core definition. Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting internet-connected systems, and that includes the whole shebang, the hardware, the software, and your critical data, from cyber threats and unauthorized access. The core mission here is pure defense. It is all about maintaining a strong posture against malicious attacks that are specifically designed to access, alter, delete, destroy, or even extort our systems and sensitive data. If cyberspace is our new house, cybersecurity is the heavy-duty lock on the door and the alarm system on the windows.
And honestly, the way we lock those doors has changed a lot. Historically, organizations relied on a traditional reactive approach. They basically poured all their resources into defending against the biggest, most well-known threats, but they left the lesser-known threats completely undefended. Today, that is a dead, completely ineffective strategy. Instead, we absolutely must use a proactive, adaptive approach. In fact, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, highly recommends continuous monitoring and real-time risk assessments. We can't just sit around and wait for an attack to happen. We've got to be constantly hunting for vulnerabilities, both the ones we know about and the ones we don't.
So why is this proactive shift absolutely crucial? While maintaining this posture delivers massive benefits far beyond just, avoiding total disaster. We get business protection against breaches, we ensure regulatory compliance, we prevent unauthorized access, we massively improve our recovery time, and we enhance trust and reputation. A strong security strategy builds stakeholder trust, it ensures business continuity, and it protects the everyday devices we all use. It's not just some annoying IT expense, it's literally a fundamental business protector.
Which brings us to Section 3, Layers of Digital Defense.
To truly protect our information, having just a single wall simply isn't going to cut it. We need a layered digital fortress. These security domains act as overlapping walls in our defense system. We've got critical infrastructure, network security, application security, cloud security, information security, operational security, and storage security. By layering all these processes and countermeasures together, we can protect our networks from opportunistic malware while simultaneously defending our applications and data from highly targeted, super sophisticated intruders. It's like a giant puzzle of protection.
Let's zoom in on the outermost perimeter wall, critical infrastructure security. This domain protects the physical and virtual assets that are just absolutely vital for national security, economic health, and public safety. Society literally relies on these systems to function day to day. Because the stakes are so incredibly high, organizations are guided by rigorous frameworks created by NIST and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Now, inside those outer walls, we have specific vaults, like cloud security. This ensures true confidential computing. How do they do it? By encrypting data across its entire life cycle. That means it's encrypted at rest, when it's just sitting in storage, it's encrypted in motion as it travels around the cloud, and it's even encrypted in use during active processing. This unbroken chain of encryption is exactly what protects your privacy and meets those really strict regulatory compliance standards.
And then, of course, we have the fail-safes, like storage security. Now, this also relies on encryption, but it takes things a step further with immutable, isolated data copies kept in the same storage pool. And immutable is just a fancy way of saying they cannot be changed or deleted by a hacker. No way. This guarantees that if an attack somehow manages to bypass all our other walls, we can rapidly restore our systems from these isolated copies, which drastically minimizes the impact of the attack.
All right, time for a bit of a plot twist in Section 4, the human element.
Prepare yourselves for this one, because even with all these highly technical, sophisticated walls in place, the absolute most unpredictable cybersecurity factor is people. You can literally have the most advanced, perfectly secure, heavily encrypted system in the entire world, and an end user sitting safely inside those walls can accidentally introduce a virus or grant access to an attacker just by failing to follow basic security practices. We, you and I, are actually the biggest vulnerability inside the gates. But hey, look at the bright side. That also means we are a vital part of the security perimeter. This makes end-user education absolutely paramount. We have to build organization-wide security awareness. The lessons are usually pretty straightforward, but they are incredibly powerful. Delete those suspicious email attachments. Absolutely do not plug in some random unidentified USB drive you find lying around the parking lot, and always follow operational procedures. Empowering you with this knowledge is key, because following good practices is literally how we stop unauthorized access dead in its tracks.
Next up, Section 5, Surviving a Breach.
Because look, no matter how tall the walls are or how well-educated the users are, we have to prepare for the inevitable day when the fortress walls actually fail. When disaster strikes, an organization relies on two distinct but totally related concepts. On one hand, we have disaster recovery. These are the strict policies dictating exactly how to restore operations and data so we can return to the capacity we had right before the event. It's the actual physical act of restoring the compromised systems. On the other hand, we have business continuity. Think of this as the ultimate fallback plan. It's how the organization manages to stay alive and continue operating even while it's missing certain critical resources during the crisis. Both of these are absolutely critical to surviving a breach.
Finally, let's look at Section 6, Enforcing Cyber Laws.
So, we've talked a lot about the architecture and the defenses, but we also really need to understand the overarching rules and the sort of police force that govern this virtual space. In the real world, we have physical and property law, which governs the physical world and tangible boundaries. But remember, cyberspace doesn't belong to the physical world, it's a virtual medium. Therefore, physical laws simply do not apply to cybercrime. Instead, we require cyber law. These are broad statutory and constitutional provisions specifically related to computers and the internet. The entire goal of cyber law is to stop any person from violating the rights of other persons while they're operating in cyberspace.
And what exactly are those rights violations? Well, cyber laws aim to punish a whole range of illegal activities. Hackers will exploit tools like domain name servers, IP addresses, and phishing campaigns just to force entry into a system. Once they're in, they might steal data, introduce computer bugs, or commit theft, piracy, money laundering, and, yes, even terrorism. Cyber law is basically the framework that governments formulate to provide cybersecurity for everyday users and ensure these illegal activities are met with real justice in a territory that literally has no physical borders.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, exploring the multiple, overlapping layers of our digital defenses and the truly unique laws that govern them all. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative question to chew on. Looking back at everything we've discussed today, from critical infrastructure to seamless cloud encryption, all the way down to end-user education, which security infrastructure do you personally think is the most critical, and why? Take a moment to deeply consider that, based on the blueprint we just walked through. I promise you, the answer might just change how you navigate the digital world from here on out. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.